Yeah. It's all unofficial.
And we're live.
All
And this will
right.
also give us an opportunity to test and make sure that the sound is working correctly on YouTube.
Hello, everybody.
If you could check that.
On it right now.
Thank you, sir.
You bet. Okay. You're coming through good. I'm a little loud, it seems like.
Oh, I can adjust that.
Okay.
Looks like you guys were turned up pretty loud. All right, go ahead and talk again. See what happens.
All right. Let's see how it sounds now.
How about me? I can't get as dark. I can't get as low.
All right, looks like I need to bump it up just a little bit. Advanced audio properties. Desktop audio. All right, you guys got to talk so I can see the levels.
All right.
And
How
I'm
we
here
sounding?
too.
Check, check. Hello.
Hello. Test 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
All right, I think that's good. Just
Okay.
creeping into the yellow, which is where you should be.
Sounds good on this end.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not recording too. You know? What? Yeah, I pretty much bumped into this just to figure out how to work it, man. It's like, I wish they could tell you what the hell everything was when you hover over it.
Yeah. No tooltips, huh?
Right. Well, not all Linux software is supported with text like manuals.
Okay. Well, if you bring up the YouTube, I'll show you the settings, or the one setting you need to change in Audacity right now.
Perfect time for an old man break. I will be right back.
Wait a minute. I go first, right? Chat on your smaller window. I don't even think Audacity's in here, is it? Fresh install?
No, you're gonna have to install Audacity.
Okay. Wow, hold on. I'm going to have to mute that. Hold on. All right. Audacity. Oh. got it up, Joe. Where's the setting that you want me to change?
Okay, well, let me know when you can see on YouTube.
I can see on YouTube.
All right. See where it says ALSA, and then next to that there's a little mic thing, and that should be on default device. And then next to that there's a little.
Where's your mouse at? Show me where you're at.
It'll catch up. And there you should be able to see it.
What do you want me to change now?
You see where I'm clicked? That needs to be on mono.
Alright, how's that?
Okay.
Yeah, okay, flipped, alright. Anything else?
That should be it for now. When we do the export, there will be a little bit more that has to be done. I mean, if you want to, you can do file and what is it? Save project as, and then get your save set up so that way if it dies, you'll at least have all of the information available. I've always found that it does the backup anyway, so like if Audacity completely dies and then I reopen it up, it will ask me if I want to reopen the project, whether I have it there or not. So.
Alright, did you want me to start recording it now then, or what?
No. We'll tell you when to start recording.
No idea.
We will let you know when we're ready to start recording, because we all start recording at the same time. So that way it's easier for the person doing the editing to line everything up.
Yes. And then once we start the recording, you don't stop it, because I did that and I broke mintCast very first thing I did on here.
Oh, gee whiz.
Do you have a hot mute set up? Or
No, I don't. How do you do that?
Okay. Josh, how do you have yours set up? I mean,
Are you on Cinnamon, Clayton?
No, I put cinnamon on and it's a whole new beast. I'm used to mint or Mate, so I went back to Mate.
well,
Okay. There should be in keyboard shortcuts. You should be able to set a mute in there. I just don't know where it is on Mate.
So hit your super key and then type keyboard.
Well,
Hey, Norbert.
did you? Oh, can you hear me? I just wanted to test my mute key.
Yeah, we can hear you.
But apparently it was already off. I mean, it was already turned. It was already muted. So wait, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, because it's muted system-wide. Okay.
I think he's got a Verizon.
XFCE.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
How do I?
Okay, so you hit your super key, you type keyboard, you bring that up, you hit shortcuts,
Okay.
and then you go to sound and medium. Still hear you. And then fourth one down, and this isn't all in Cinnamon that I'm doing. I think it's similar in Mate, but like fourth one down under sound and media is mic mute. And
Might mute, mute. What the hell? What button am I gonna hit for that?
okay, and now if you look down in the bottom section, I think there's a couple of unassigned there. If you click on the unassigned, and then use Alt-Z.
See, you're unassigned anywhere.
Okay,
Can I just volume mute? Hit add?
I don't know.
Then I can set it up the way I want it, right?
I wonder if you create the shortcut from scratch.
Because they're saying all audio mute, which is there's no button for audio mute.
Well, why don't you share your screen?
Because it's mine.
Okay, I was so in a bit of a trouble because I already set my mute key, but it's only muting my internal microphone, which is not the one I'm using. So, and I'm using a mixer.
Be right back.
Well, I'm not using an internal mic. Let's see. It works just fine. Using Alt-Z. Now, granted, I still prefer to come over here, hit that button so everybody can see when my mic is muted. But that's just me and this HyperX mic.
Hey Joe, you're not getting any echo when I speak or when you hear. I'm using semi-open backs today.
No, a little bit of reverb, but nothing to write home about or put in a correction for.
Okay, I could switch if need be.
No, we're good.
Okay.
Had to run to the bathroom. Alright, so I gotta get all these windows on here.
Now, earlier, Nishant had said he was going to be on. Did he say, do I remember right, did he say again that he wasn't going to be on?
Yeah, I think he said it was going to be next episode.
Okay.
Oh, still working.
I am in for the 12th December show before I take a 2-week vacation into the new year.
Well, today's the 12th, but I thought yesterday that he said he wasn't going to be on this one.
I'm looking, because I thought I remembered the same thing, but you know, yesterday's kind of blurry.
Right. He didn't fill anything out in the show notes either, so.
And then, okay, in public, Moss says, Joe, I won't make it for the show tomorrow. I will be out of town the 16th to 20th and exhausted for a few days after that, but I might make the 26th. Count on me for the 9th.
Right. Awesome.
So Moss will be back on the show.
Love it.
Alright, I just had that keyboard shortcut window freeze up on me. Right in the middle of my screen.
And I successfully managed to figure out how to toggle my external mic, so I should be good too.
Okay. So we just got to get Clayton's mute working and we'll be good to go.
Right now my mouse doesn't want to click on any windows.
That's a
Tell
problem.
me you're going to have to restart?
Yeah. Yep.
Sounds exciting.
All right. Not the first time.
Wouldn't it be the first, right? I'll go figure.
No.
Yeah, we'll wait for you. It's not going to hurt our feelings all that much.
Just a touch.
I have to use the bathroom anyway.
There you go.
You can start the show without me if you really want to. I'm cool with it.
I think we'll wait for you, Joe.
All right.
Hey, Norbert.
Yeah?
In the news,
What's about it?
up in the area where Joe reads the titles for the news. I don't know if you want to throw something in there about the articles that you put up.
Oh. First up in the news, okay.
Yeah.
Mm,
So it looks like we have. That sounded like a good drink.
that was water. Nah, I always drink water whenever I'm live, anywhere.
Not a bad idea. That's what I'm drinking too. Just carbonated water.
Mm. Have you ever heard about the Monster, the energy drink brand?
Oh yeah, I have one in the fridge.
Yeah, they have something that's called Monster Tour Water. It looks exactly like the green Monster energy drink, but also has Tour Water printed on it. Because, for example, when there's a band on a tour, and they have a contract with Monster, they have to publicly drink Monster products, but you just can't expect them to drink energy drinks all day. So they have these canned water, yeah, that has the Monster logo on it, so they can drink water while still showing up of the brand.
Yeah, nice. Is it carbonated or just regular?
I have no idea, but at one point I've seen someone comment somewhere on the internet that they've seen a member of a band brushing their teeth with the Monster energy drink, and only later did they realize that it wasn't an energy drink; it was water.
Water. Oh yeah. There he is.
Hey, Josh.
Hey Clayton.
Don't
I'm back to working.
Oh, don't get me to lie.
Who are we still missing?
Technically Mark, but I don't think he's gonna be jumping on. I haven't seen him anywhere.
All right.
I
Well,
think I'm just gonna try mic in my mute
that's fine.
in the distro for now, Discord.
That's fine.
And I don't want it to lock up again.
Okay. If we're gonna see who has louder click your keyboards, I'm gonna go get my red dragon.
Oh, let me turn my microphone around.
I think I have one of those too.
And the biggest interesting thing is that I can type like this without using all my 10 fingers. Basically, I never learned to touch type, and I press most keys with my index fingers. But even like that, my typing speed is so good, I think that I'm satisfied with it.
No, we call that chopstick.
Oh. Is that a blue switch?
Yeah. But the red dragon's louder. Don't get me wrong, this is loud. The red dragon's louder.
So my daughter has a red dragon. It is clicky. All right, Clean. If you have your mute, if you're just gonna do that, then you might take a look at the show notes, and up at the top where you're first introduced in the yellow line, just throw
Wait a
whatever
minute,
you'd
I gotta
like.
get where's the show notes at, man?
All right, hold on. I'll
Joe can
share
probably
again.
shoot you a link.
I got news.
You should be able to edit, right, Joe?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Anybody with the link can edit. Which, granted, isn't safe for this episode.
Right.
But I wanted
But
to
we're
see
not
who was
ones.
actually going to join before I started giving them access to, repositories.
I got no idea what I'm doing here.
Join the
What am
club.
I supposed to click on to get the notes now?
The link I just dropped in Discord.
I'm in Discord. What you got? Music.
It's mintCast crew in the general.
I did add you to crew, so
Show announcements. I don't see it. General down here at the bottom.
Yeah.
Oh. Hey, something pop up. I gotta sign in. That's why I tried to get here early. But reboot didn't help any.
Boy, Joe, you're going to have a mouthful when it comes to the news and the security update.
do you want to cover the news?
Oh, no, I'm fine.
Or the security update? One of the two. That's a lot.
It is a lot.
We might have to trim that down.
What the hell they want me to
Which one do you want trimmed down?
If I have to pick, I'm going to say the second half.
Okay. So you want security
No.
bumped down a little bit?
If I'm going to pick,
Oh, one to read?
no, if I'm going to pick something that needs to be cut out, I'm just going to go to the news. I'm going to count how many there are, and I'm going to cut out the second half of them.
Oh, I see.
So I would suggest,
Oh.
I don't know if you can find something to trim, because that's going to go a little bit long.
Yeah.
We have 6-7 pieces of news.
Yeah. It's
Um,
probably a little long there.
Okay, I think because we have 2 Firefox-related ones, I'm just going to delete one of them.
Okay.
Because Firefox 95 is the one I'm going to delete because Firefox Relay I think is more interesting.
Okay.
I don't know why you are coming across a lot louder than anybody else, Norbert.
I noticed.
Like,
It is a
pop my
little hard.
eardrums loud. But
Yeah.
if I adjust the volume down on my end, it's going to adjust everybody's volume down.
Oh, it's on my end.
Okay.
How's it now?
Much better.
Okay, because Yeah, I'm on Debian again. So I think I nuked my Arch system because I basically don't use multiple, even if I have multiple distros, I realize I don't use them. So I haven't been on the show from this system yet.
No worries.
It's not to say that I'm not using Arch on anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anywhere in particular you wanted me to add anything to the
Yes.
notes?
If you take a look right at the very top, if you're looking at the live stream or anything like that, right at the very top, yeah, I can see your anonymous giraffe right there. And the yellow section,
Yeah.
right next to your name,
Okay.
you see how we've all put some little greeting style thing there? That will be where you first say something. If you want to write down what you're going to say, anything like that.
Okay.
Okay, and now, while the rest of us are doing the initial portions of the show, if you want to scroll down to the bi-weekly wanderings, and after Norbert's section, add a section about talking about yourself a little bit. You know, your first bi-weekly, you can tell us about yourself, tell us what you've been up to, your favorite projects, things like that. What got you into Linux, etc., etc. If you have anything specific you want to add to the innards, then you can do that. Otherwise, just get in where you fit in on those. But we are running 30 minutes late at this point.
Well, I'll see if I can type real fast.
Oh, you can type while we're doing the rest of it. For now, let's jump over to Audacity and get that started.
Okay.
No camera today, Norbert?
Sorry?
No camera?
Oh, sorry.
How do you turn the camera on?
I mean,
Well, if you go to Discord and
Right.
you look at the room that we're all in, down at the bottom, it should have a camera symbol on the left. There you go.
There it is.
There's Ancient now.
That's a very lovely beard.
Yes.
Yeah, I figured I'd fit in until Josh shaved.
Right?
I know. I'm trying to take a few years off the mug.
I didn't recognize him when he turned on the camera yesterday. It's like somebody, you know, stole Josh and put somebody else there in his place.
I
Is
feel
that-
sorry for him.
but if you don't have a beard, then how is your Linux system supposed to like you again?
That's a good question. Yeah, I gotta have my neck beard. I think Joe and I were going over that.
All right, so we've got everybody's faces up now. And now over to Audacity. Who wants to run this part?
You want me to count it down?
Yep, you're the new Tony for this.
Oh
Sorry,
boy.
give me a few seconds.
Okay.
Okay.
I just hit the red dot when we do this.
Yes.
When Josh tells you to hit the red dot, we hit the red dot. And then he's
Okay.
going to, and then we're going to wait 20 to 25 seconds. And then Josh will say, okay, ready. And then we will do a 3, 2, 1, and we will all say 0 at the same time to sync. And then we continue with the show from there.
Yeah, but when do I hit record though?
When Josh tells you to in just a minute,
Yeah.
when he does the first
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
All right.
Yeah. Tell me when everybody's ready. Oh, Clayton, just to make sure, you see on your Audacity the ALSA menu there, and just to the right of it, there should be like a little blank or a long rectangular blank box.
I got him on mono already.
Oh, you already got them? Okay, never mind. Disregard. Okay, so in this part, we just do silence. So we're all going to not say anything, leave your mic on. It's just so we can get background noise, so when Norbert does the edit, he can filter. All right, everybody ready?
I'm ready. Yeah.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, record. Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
So we are good there. All right. And we ready to do the 0? Okay, so on this part, Clayton, I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1 and say 0, and then we all say 0 as close to, the same time as we can. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, 0.
0.
Right.
And now is when you'll start using your mute. Well, everybody but me right this second, because I got to do the whole talkie thing next. If everybody's ready. Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Okay. Welcome to mintCast, the podcast by the Linux Mint community for all users of Linux. Feeling old? I'm Joe.
Sorry. Still compiling my greetings line. I'm Norbert.
Just short of ambulatory. I'm Josh.
You're muted.
I'm Clayton. I'm just an end user of Linux.
This is episode 376. This is episode 376.5, recorded on Sunday, the 12th of December. Livestream information is at mintcast.org/livestream. If you see something that you'd like to hear about, tell us. Send us email at mintcast@mintcast.org, join us live on YouTube, post at the mintcast subreddit, chat with us on Telegram, Discord, Facebook, or post directly, mintcast.org. First up, in the news, Linux Mint Monthly News. Europe embraces open source. Debian has browser issues. Fedora goes all in on Wayland. Firefox helps you fight spam. And the Linux kernel gets rusty. In security, Ubuntu kernel security patches, FGKASLR, gets close to mainline. Data stealing malware hides on Linux servers. Godaddy data breach. Then in our wanderings, I do some 3D printing. Josh got a new monitor. Norbert switches OSs, and we learn a little bit about the new guy, Clayton. In our innards section, we talk about our favorite command line tools. And finally, the feedback and a couple of suggestions. First up, in the news, we have the Linux Mint blog for November. The Mint team is focused on the 20.3 release with plans to release in December. It's currently being beta tested. Mate 1.26 and Flatpak 1.12 were backported. In the X apps, the PDF reader received proper manga support. The image viewer received the ability to quickly fit to the width or the height of the displayed picture, and many of the apps received improvements for small display resolutions and dark mode support. Cinnamon 5.2 features multi-calendar events. Events you create in your calendars will appear in your calendar applet. Sticky notes and hypnotics will feature a search function. Now that's nice. This is there is a brand new app in 20.3 called Thingy, which is an X app that can be used as a one-stop place to quickly access recent and favorite documents.
Well, looking forward to that for sure.
Yeah, the calendar thing is kind of cool, and then the whole being able to search hypnotics instead of having to hunt and peck your way through it. Yeah, that'll be nice.
That's a blessing right there. That's a little painful right now, how the way it is.
And Leo just sent a heads up for us an hour ago that 20.3 beta ISOs were actually approved for release. A couple of days ago. So they might even be out.
Now?
I don't know. So they might be even out by the time the episode goes up.
I believe they said Monday. Yeah, they should be out and available.
Mm. Yeah, then definitely.
The European Commission will make its software solutions open source for public benefit. This is from its FOSS. In other words, anything that the EU uses for its internal work will be made open source. The Commissioner for Budget and Administration, Johannes Hahn, shared a statement regarding the benefits of open source in the press release. He said, "Open source offers great advantages in a domain where the EU can have a leading role. The new rules will increase transparency and help the Commission, as well as citizens, companies, and public services across Europe, benefit from open source software development. Pooling of efforts to improve the software and the co-creation of new features lowers costs for the society, as we also benefit from the improvements made by other developers. This can also enhance security as external and independent specialists check software for bugs and security flaws." Now, this is the way open source should be done. If you're going to do something, make a change downstream, you make it available upstream. Even if it doesn't become popular, it's still there and available for other people to use. That's the way it should be.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And especially after the news a couple of weeks ago about a German state going all open source. This is such what's the word I'm looking for? This news make me have such a positive outlook, because in part because I'm European, but I think this will be beneficial for the entire world in the long run.
Yeah, anytime we can get a win for open source software, that works for me. Always better than proprietary.
Okay. Next up. The sad state of web browser support currently within Debian. This is from Phonetic. All of the Debian-shipped browsers, Chromium, Firefox, ESR, Falcon, etc., are having severe open security issues, which the package maintainers apparently are not able to fix easily. Chromium is still at version 90, which means it contains tons of security issues, and the Debian wiki recommends switching to a different browser. The last update of Firefox ESR in Debian stable has been version 78.15.0. This version also has quite a few unpatched security issues, and the 78 ESR branch is not maintained by Mozilla anymore. They need to update to the 91 ESR branch, which apparently causes big problems in the current stable Debian platform. In an issue, people complain about freezing browser sessions with the 91 release, which blocks the new Firefox ESR release from being pushed to stable security. Mozilla Thunderbird is affected by this as well, by the way.
Now, if it had been 1 or 2 years since the latest Debian stable release, I would say this can happen. But it's only been 4 months since Bullseye was released. So within usually feature updates don't. And usually after a stable version is released, stable feature updates are no longer received. It will no longer receive feature updates. So is Debian Bullseye going to be stuck with Firefox 78 for the next 1 or 2 years until the next one releases?
I don't know. I know in LMDE they're not tracking Firefox ESR. they're going with the standard Firefox, and it's probably related to this kind of issue.
I just did a quick search on the Debian packages site, and even in Bookworm, which is the current testing version, it's still on 7.8.14. So it's the same as stable release. But Unstable already has 91, so I think testing should reset that soon. But yeah, and because of that, I'm actually using on Debian testing the Flatpak version of Firefox, because even on testing, it's not as fast moving as I would like it to be.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's at least one optional avenue you could go with the Flatpak.
Because the problem is that even if they tried updating Firefox on Debian Stable, the libraries that come with Debian Stable are too outdated for that to properly work.
Right, which is where the bundled dependencies in the Flatpak would
Yeah.
really help out.
Okay.
So maybe Debian could make an exception with browsers and but no, like I said, the libraries. Flatpaks might be the best solution at this point, because even if you downloaded an unpacked Firefox from the official site, it would still need those libraries that you don't have.
Right, so Flatpaks or AppImage, either
No,
one.
I'm not sure if AppImage would work, because that still doesn't come with its own runtimes.
No, that's true.
Because I had a case of an AppImage not working because it needed some library that wasn't on my system.
Okay. Moving on, Fedora 36 planning to run Wayland by default with NVIDIA's proprietary driver, and this is from Phonetic. While all of the software components are out there now for being able to run NVIDIA's proprietary driver stack with modern GBM-based Wayland compositors by default, including X-Wayland support, Fedora Workstation currently defaults to an Xorg session when using this driver. However, for Fedora 36 next spring, they are planning on using the Wayland desktop here too. Thanks to NVIDIA 495 series driver introducing GBM support and other improvements made to accelerate X-Wayland, etc., running NVIDIA's proprietary driver stack for daily Wayland-based desktop use is becoming viable. Now, I'm just going to say that we've been watching Wayland become viable as a daily use thing for a decade now.
But in the past year, it kind of accelerated, I would say.
Yeah, I kind of did that, a couple of years back and a couple of years back and a couple of years back. So,
or I should rather say not accelerated, but pushed, because if you don't push it so that people would actually use it, then it will never be a thing. Because if you're always just waiting for it to become viable, but if nobody uses it, everyone's just waiting, then it never be viable.
Yeah, I know. I understand, Fedora manually making it so that everybody uses Wayland by default, and then if they want to use X, then they have to do other things. They're not the first people to actually try it. I think that was Ubuntu a couple of years ago. But everybody just ends up going back to X11 specifically because, for the same reason, everybody wants to get rid of X11. It's old, and there's just been so much tacked onto it and added to it, and there's so many features and so many different things that you can do with it. Do I agree that we need to switch to Wayland eventually? Yes. Do I see it happening tomorrow? Probably not.
We'll see what happens. I think Ubuntu 21.10 actually features Wayland out of the box. So if they stick with it with the LTS, I imagine that's going to be a big push for Wayland support going forward.
Well, when do you think Mint might look into something like that?
I did see a user ask Clem about that, and he's basically sitting the fence saying they're monitoring the situation. So I don't think there's been any commitment yet, but I guess we'll see when they move over to that 2204 base. That'll that might be something that can help him determine.
Yeah. Okay. All right, moving along. Firefox Relay is now out of beta and adds new premium plan to help protect your real email address. Firefox Relay is an email alias service that helps hide your real email address and take control of your inbox. For a while, it was in the beta phase with limited access to features. Now, as per the official announcement, it is available for all users out of beta and introduces a premium plan to unlock all features. An email alias is just another email address, mostly temporary, that forwards all the emails received to your actual email box. Thanks to aliases, you can protect your real email address and manage spam effectively. You can also use the email aliases to reply without revealing your real email address.
It's interesting because DuckDuckGo is actually doing the same thing right now. I'm actually, I just got the beta invites to get a duck.com address. So I haven't had a chance to use it yet, but it does seem, good for privacy.
This is something that people have been using various obscure services and websites for, like generating temporary email addresses, and now having
temporary email addresses, temporary phone numbers, things like that.
Yeah.
No, I really see the usefulness of this, specifically in finding out who's selling your data to who. So you create a bunch of not fake, but forwarded emails that aren't your actual email, and then you only use it on one site, and then whoever sends emails to that site, guess what? Now you know who's selling your information to who.
That's a good point. Yeah, it'll make it a little easier to parse out that information.
You don't want any of those extended warranties, right?
No. I want to stop receiving phone calls about extended warranties or selling my house.
Getting them on my Magic Jack lately.
Or selling the house that I don't own in El Paso, or the car that hasn't had a warranty in 20 years. Yeah, that's about to expire.
Yeah, all my vehicles are 160,000 miles or more, and I've never bought them from a dealership, so there was no extended warranty.
Or how...
And I'm a mechanic and have toolbox, all right? There's the warranty.
Yeah. Or how my Windows isn't updating properly, so I need to give them full access to my computer and my bank account.
My Windows isn't working. My name's...
Now if they can use it to stop those pesky advertisements you get in the snail mail, that'd be nice.
Yeah, I have a funny story about spam calls. My phone number that I'm using is my second ever phone number, and I've been using it for 12 years. But I was in school when I got this phone number, and I actually got it from a family member. So it was I inherited the phone number, and even to this day, I get maybe 1 or 2 advertisement calls to this number that is looking for the other family member that I got this number for. 2 calls a year is fairly manageable. I would say isn't that annoying, because I don't really want to change my number because everyone that I know is my number knows this number. So I guess I have to deal with 2 spam calls each year.
Yeah, well...
I mean, 2 calls that are specifically looking for the other person. I also get some that is for me, but I just say I'm not interested.
I'd hate to be the person that got my phone number when I was done with it. I've been using the same cell phone number for 20 years. And I've been using the same Google Voice number since Google Voice started being free for everyone, even while it was in beta. So, yeah.
I was offered a free phone if I just changed my number. Well, the phone number they gave me was a deadbeat that didn't pay his bills, and I got rid of that number real quick and went to Mint Mobile. Gave up on... T-Mobile.
Oh, I've had T-Mobile for 20 plus years, so yeah. All right, moving along. Updated Rust code for Linux kernel patches posted. This is also from Phonetic. In 2022, we will very likely see the experimental Rust programming language support within the Linux kernel mainline. Patches introducing the initial support and infrastructure around Rust within the kernel have already been sent out. Norbert, I'm going to start making you read these. I know you wrote it. I'm going to make you read it.
I just copied some of them from the sites, and I did trim some of the sentences, so it would have been even worse if it was the original sentences. I mean, I wouldn't mind reading the entire news section. That would give me some good English practice.
I'll let you do the security section coming up. How about that?
Oh no, I'm not big on security. I mean, I could read it, but I'm not big on security updates.
Okay, Red Hat is also now joining ARM, Google, and Microsoft in voicing their support for Rust code within the Linux kernel. Rust for the Linux kernel remains of increasing interest to developers over security concerns, with Rust affording more memory safety protections, potentially lowering the barrier to contributing to the kernel and other related benefits.
This is interesting because I hear a lot of people say how Rust is a very security focused language, but I've seen someone somewhere say that it is not really. So, but I guess if but I guess sorry, yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything they want to add about Rust?
Well, I think
I don't know anything about Rust.
It's
I
on the
guess that
underside of some of my vehicles.
All of mine.
yeah, but I guess if if so many companies are focusing on it, then it must actually be of substantial. What I would say, then I guess it does make a difference in terms of security. Also, let's not forget that System 76 is going to write their own desktop in Rust, partially in Rust. So, I guess this is the current popular programming language.
Yeah, they come and go. Like, anybody remember Ruby on Rails? All right, moving along to the security update. New Ubuntu Linux kernel security patches for 6 vulnerabilities from Linux Today. Coming 3 weeks after the previous security updates, which addressed 13 vulnerabilities, the new Linux kernel security patches are available for Ubuntu 21.10 through 14.04 for all supported Ubuntu releases. The new security updates fix CVE 2021 3744 and 2021 3764. 2 security issues discovered in the Linux kernel's AMD cryptographic coprocessor driver, which would allow a local attacker to cause a denial of service through memory exhaustion. FGK ASLR appears closer to mainline for improving Linux security from Phonetic. So I'm sorry, I didn't give anybody a chance to speak on the first one if they wanted to.
Well, I just keep getting surprised how Ubuntu 14.04 is still being supported, but then I remember that in some places in the world, people are even running XP to this day. So,
well, you can probably find a machine out there running Windows 98 if you really wanted to.
yeah, and it's probably a very crucial part of some company's infrastructure somewhere.
Yeah, which is sad. But yeah, 14.04 getting updates is a little odd. Now, FGKASLR appears closer to mainline for improving Linux security. Function granular kernel address space layout randomization is making it more difficult to predict kernel address positions for attacks over standard KASLR, while KASLR helps make memory addresses less predictable. Once an attacker determines the base address, it's not as effective. FGKASLR applies function reordering on top of KASLR. The functions are reordered at boot time and thus much harder for attacks relying on known kernel memory locations. Norbert,
In my defense, in my defense, I wasn't the one who did this.
Sorry, that was me.
Okay. But
Yeah,
hey, I knocked that out of the park.
You did excellent on that one, Joe. I'm impressed. Yeah,
I
I don't know a whole lot about
10 times
it.
fast.
Right. but it sounds like is this similar maybe to Spectre, or where they're having problems with memory locations leaking, other programs being able to access that information within memory? I don't know, but
It sounds like it.
yeah.
By further randomizing the location, it would be more difficult for you to piece together what's going on in memory, I would assume.
That's what it sounds like.
Does something like this affect performance?
It would probably have a bit of overhead, would be my guess, but probably not anything too exceptionally bad. And for the first fix and this fix here, from what I understand, most of it requires physical access to be able to do something, and I'm not going to worry about somebody walking into my house and messing with my computer. Now, from a business perspective, a major server or something like that, most of those can afford a little bit of overhead. Yeah, it sucks, but you still need those mitigations.
Right, it's probably a worthy trade-off for that fraction of a percentage of a performance hit in order to get the security.
Yeah, I guess it's something like what they say about full disk encryption, that it might not even be noticeable on a modern system.
Okay, moving along. New payment data stealing malware hides in Nginx process on Linux servers. This is from the Hacker News. E-commerce platforms in the US, Germany, and France have come under attack from a new form of malware that targets Nginx servers in an attempt to masquerade its presence and slip past detection by security solution. Nginx, as the advanced malware is called, works by hijacking a host Nginx application to embed itself into the web server process. The remote access Trojan itself is delivered via cronrat, another piece of malware that hides malicious payloads in cron jobs scheduled to execute on February 31st on a non-existent calendar day. Both cronrat and Nginx are designed to provide a remote way into the compromised servers in order to make server-side modifications to the compromised e-commerce websites in a manner that enable the adversaries to exfiltrate data by skimming online payment platforms.
Yeah, I thought maybe this was something you might be able to speak to a little bit, Joe. I don't know if this is something that you would possibly deal with.
Not really.
No.
I deal with money markets. If we do see something that affects it, I know that there was something going on with Red Hat yesterday, but I don't know all the details on that, and I won't find out the details until tomorrow. But something like this, no. If it has a major effect, I'll hear the scuttle about it, but I have not heard it yet.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't become too prevalent. I know these Linux servers are probably getting banged on all the time, but yeah, hopefully they hold up.
Okay, moving along. GoDaddy data breach from Techcrunch. GoDaddy said the unauthorized person used a compromised password to get access to GoDaddy's systems around September 6th. GoDaddy said it discovered the breach last week on November 17th. So, a couple weeks ago now. It's not clear if the compromised password was protected with two-factor authentication. The company said that active customers had their SFTP credentials for file transfers and the username and passwords for their WordPress databases, which store all the user's content, exposed in the breach. In some cases, the customer's SSL private keys was exposed, which, if abused, could allow an attacker to impersonate a customer's website or services.
Yeah, this one's a little bit further back now, but it's been revealed that I think it affected something like 1.5 million users, so this was definitely not tiny in scope.
Yeah, Well, I'm glad we don't sell anything, so. Because we do
Right.
have a WordPress. I don't think we use GoDaddy.
I think that's a smart move. I haven't heard a whole lot of positive on GoDaddy.
Anything else? Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Is GoDaddy a domain registry service or a host service?
I believe they're domain registry.
Okay. That is it for the security update. Now, off to the bi-weekly wanderings. First up in our bi-weekly wanderings, I've done a bunch of 3D printing. I 3D printed a watch stand for my grandpa's watch that I got when he passed. I may never wear my grandpa's watch, but I do appreciate that I have something of his. The stand showcases the watch very well, and it'll help me prevent my children from moving it around. I like the watch. It's a lovely gold watch. It actually is solar powered or light powered. And I 3D printed the stand for it, and it's going to go up on my mantle once all the Christmas stuff comes down from the mantle. Since I got a thicker case for my phone, it's a wallet case, it's too wide to fit in most stands, so I had to modify someone else's design for a phone stand and then print that out, so I have, a stand that's big enough for my phone with the case on. I am going to have to design and 3D print another one that actually has a slot for a USB port, and then I will run the USB port through and glue it into place so that I have a charging stand that works with my phone, so that way, when I go to bed, all I got to do is plop it right on there and go to sleep. But other than that, I also 3D printed a mini screwdriver that uses standard size bits. It allows me to get into, narrower places with a screwdriver. And I'll show that on camera real quick. That's all it is. It's super tiny. And, you put the bit right there and makes it super easy to get into tight places. I'm also going to be printing out an adapter to use the smaller size bits that I have. I think they're 4mm bits. And then the adapter will go into this. And then I'll be able to use the 4mm bits as well.
Okay. Used to have the old dial-up modems. Oh, his picture came back. There he is.
Yeah, he's back. I think
I'm
we're
going
back.
to mute mine.
Sorry about that. I guess my internet cut out.
Yeah, it started going a little haywire when you started talking about printing your adapter for the 4mm. So.
Okay. I can pick up from there.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see.
Was your Audacity still? It was still.
Yeah,
going?
yeah. My Audacity is still running. It was an internet connection problem. I've been having them all day, and it kind of sucks that I'm the guy with the live stream. So I assumed that we had stopped sending to YouTube as well, but it looks like we are again. So
All right.
all right. Was going to print out an adapter for that so I could run the 4mm from that. I also saw one for a keychain that I might print out that should do the 4mm bits. And then I also printed out a stand for my pliers because my pliers were starting to take over the room. Yes, I have another stand. It's actually a wooden one, but I printed this out yesterday, and my glow-in-the-dark filament just never seems to run out. So quite a bit of it. And there's still more left on the spool, and I just keep printing these large things with it, and it keeps not running out until I probably until I desperately need something printed. So yeah, I like the stand for my pliers. It really helps organize, and it's simple, and it fits on my workbench quite well.
Looks like it's shaped like a little barn there.
Yeah, pretty much. And then moving on from 3D printing, the crypto market has really been all over the place this last month, but mostly down, like a lot down, like a lot down. I'm keeping my eye on it because it's fun but frustrating. No worries though, this happens almost every December. For tax purposes, people want to lock in the amount of money that they have earned so that they can calculate the amount of taxes that they owe. If you've been debating getting into crypto, now might be a good time to put a little money in and see what happens. Just remember, crypto is never guaranteed and you shouldn't put in more than you're willing to lose. Oh, and I'm not a financial advisor, so take what I say with a grain of salt. But also, if you get in right now while things are low, be ready to sit on it for at least a couple of months while the market comes back. After tax season, people will start putting more in again. I've been making several new recipes in my spare time. Yes, I'm talking about cooking. That are simple and zero sugar. Not just for me, but my dad has a sweet tooth and he also has diabetes. So I'm hoping to try and get him to try these and see how he likes them. Problem is, I can't tell him that they're low sugar recipes or he simply won't eat them. He will refuse. So these recipes, simple one is yogurt apple pie. It's actually a really delicious recipe. I might have some right after the show. Coffee protein bars. Might need to cut back a bit on the amount of coffee that's in them because, yeah, they will, resurrect the dead. Catfish stir fry. I love my catfish stir fry. I'm working on a pumpkin pie oatmeal recipe that really still needs some work. And I make a very large peanut butter banana smoothie, and it's like sub 500 calories still, but it's bigger than your head. And yeah, delicious. I am working with others to see if I would be a good match for the school board, and that's also taking up a lot of my time, so I've not had a lot of chance to do many projects. And I think it's been kind of decided for me that I'm running for school board, whether I really like the idea or not. So, fun. I'm also going to be taking a trip to Florida at the end of next week, and I'm working on getting all the stuff together that I need for that. Hopefully I'll be able to take a couple of projects with me, and I know I'm planning on packing some SSD drives and my soldering iron, because I know there's already people in Florida that want me to fix their stuff. The one more triple driver that I was talking about on the last show, turns out one of the drivers was blown. It wasn't a bad cable or anything, so I had to replace the driver completely. But I had a few lying around, so that wasn't an issue. So for now, I have one wired set, which always comes in handy. It's nice to have something that doesn't use a battery. Although I may convert it to MMCX and then convert the cable as well. Then I can use my other MMCX headphones on that. I did have some Linux fun. I pulled out that 7140. In the past, when I was testing the 7140 and the 7130, I was using 32 gigabyte 2260 SSDs. I've been using the 7140 a bit more, and I've kind of given the 7130 to my wife because she needed a small device that was at least somewhat powerful, and I had already put a larger drive in that. Updates were filling up that tiny 32 gigabyte SSD. 2260s are not a very common drive though, so that makes them a little bit more expensive. But I did have some extra 2242s floating around and some linked adapters from drives. But the linked adapters, that they did not work. But those drives were I attempted to put them in the Latitude tablet, and it's very particular on what drives it'll take. So I ended up pulling the 32 gigabyte drive, and I found a 128 gigabyte drive that had the correct pinout and tested that the system could see it. Like I said, I did not have the correct adapter to go from 2242 to 2260, so as a temporary solution, what I've done is I've used some thick double-sided tape that'll hold the drive at the correct height and in position. I do not recommend this as a solution to others because it's a little bit more difficult to undo. So if you want to change the hard drive again later, it will be a problem. Since it is a fresh install, I'm going to be doing some of the hopping of the distros. I started with an older version of Ubuntu Mate to put it through the update process, and that worked really well. I still feel like Ubuntu Mate is a bit slow on it. What I dislike about Ubuntu Mate is that the settings for the touchpad are extremely finicky about whether or not they actually get implemented, but most especially the disable touchpad while typing feature. It's a very tight space on that tablet and very easy to hit the touchpad and have it register as a touch. The next thing I'm going to try on that is Kali Linux, and thanks to the delay, I've been going on way too long. Josh, what have you been up to?
Well, I've been dealing with an unknown health issue that involves my feet swelling up, so it's making it difficult to get around right now. It's random and quite painful, but it generally subsides after a week or two, and although it's chronic, I'm happy it only happens to me a few times a year. Perhaps if I can ever get in at a doctor that has some availability, I can get it sorted out, but that's easier said than done. On a lighter note, I bought a new monitor for the first time in over a decade to replace my reliable but dated Acer X223W, which is a TN panel monitor. And I went with a Cooler Master, yes, that Cooler Master, GM27CF. It's a 27-inch 1080p FreeSync display that advertises up to a 200 Hz refresh rate on a VA panel. And it also features a 1500R curve, which is noticeable, but not enough to qualify it as a feature that I'd pay for. So far, I'm really enjoying the extra size and the sharp contrast that VA panels are known for. It's been a really nice monitor, although I do believe this is Cooler Master's first foray into monitors, so I'm going to be keeping an eye on how well it stands the test of time. Hopefully it'll be just as good as my old Acer was. I completed all my Christmas shopping for the family, so now all that's left to do is wrap everything and get the decorations out of the shed and set up. As much as I enjoy the holiday season, it's always a big relief to get everything done with some time to spare. And online shopping has been a huge benefit, especially with the pandemic lingering on. I wasn't looking forward to going out to the stores and shopping in person. I have a bunch of outdoor projects that I need to get done, but the cold, rainy weather has landed here, so I'm going to take a little time to rest up my feet and do some movie and show watching for now, and play catch up once the sun comes back out. I'd also like to try and get some more time in on the bicycle and work on getting a healthy diet going again so I can shed a few pounds before spring arrives. Yeah, other than that, I'm looking forward to the release of Mint 20.3. I may play around with the beta once I get my hands on it on the Ventoy drive, but the early reports that I've seen are that it's already quite stable and very similar to 20.2 in regards to functionality, as we should expect, I guess. I definitely plan to upgrade once the stable release is made available, and hopefully that'll be sometime around Christmas. Every once in a while, Clem will throw us a bone and get it out the door a little early. So that's basically what's been going on my side. Norbert, how about you?
For me, this week marks the beginning of the exam period at the university. So by the time I ended up having a stable working setup on my laptop for university work, the academic period ended. But since we moved to online classes for everything now, mainly using the likes of Zoom and Microsoft Teams, and we had and the way these online classes gave us a bit of a trouble for us students because we ended up having to use a bunch of online services. For example, some teachers would require us to use Zoom. Some of others would use Microsoft Teams. One of them even suggested Jitsi, which was a welcome surprise. And the likes of Microsoft, OneDrive, Google Drive, and Google Classroom. So, and not to mention Slack. So I think I think the university is supposed to use. So I think there was an initiative to try to reduce the number of services we have to use, but for now we have to be signed up for 3 or 4 different platforms for classes. And as I mentioned, I finally settled on a distro for my laptop. It was in somewhere the middle of November marked my first year of using Linux full time, and I guess I'm still in my distro hopping phase because I've been trying out various systems. Because I've been trying out various systems on my laptop, and for a while I was happy with EndeavourOS and Arch, but then I kept encountering packages in the AUR that I needed, but would fail to install. In some cases, even because because it was trying to pull a deb file, but the link was just broken. So I've been using Debian testing as my main system on my laptop for a couple of weeks now, and I did say that I ended up having 3 or 4 distros on my. Ended up having 3 or 4 distros because I wanted to avoid cases when I would need a package I wouldn't get and I wouldn't be able to get it. But after these weeks, I realized that I only ever use Debian, so I didn't really need any of the others. And even if I wanted to, I realized having multiple distros just makes it inconvenient to do anything productive. So I just decided to settle on Debian, which is interesting because over this past year, when I've been hopping from distro to distro, the one constant thing in my life, Linux-wise, was Debian, because whatever distro I was on, I always kept Debian stable virtual machine around. So I just decided to double down on that and move to Debian full time. And when I started using it, I realized that a lot of the packages I didn't expect to find in the Debian repos were actually in the Debian repos, were actually there and maintained, even on testing and unstable. So I think I underestimated package. So I think I underestimated package availability. So I think I underestimated package availability. So I think I underestimated package availability on Debian. I did look up the repo sizes, and it has over 30,000 packages, almost as many as Ubuntu, which is compared to OpenSUSE and Arch, which have somewhere in the 10,000s. It's just incredibly large. And I really started appreciating Debian more and more, especially because I was surprised by the fact that Debian testing is already on. Especially after I realized that Debian testing is already on the latest kernel 5.15, which when we talked about how the browsers were even up, which compared to how we talked about the browsers being out of date even on testing, was very surprising for me. So I started customizing and setting up my Debian system, and I did something I wouldn't have expected to do. And I did something that I wouldn't have expected me to do myself to do a couple of weeks ago, which is I moved from GNOME to XFCE on my laptop. Mainly because whenever I was in the Zoom call or a Discord call or any sort of conference call, it was just eat up my CPU and GNOME would start lagging, sometimes very badly. And when I had to share in cases where I had to share my screen, it wasn't very pleasant to having to demonstrate something while your system is slow. So I decided to go to XFCE, and I started to look for packages that I can use to make my XFCE experience better on the laptop, similar to GNOME. And I found the package called Unclutter Xfixes, the latest version of which has a feature where it can hide the cursor when it senses that I'm using the touchscreen. This was one of my pet. It's such a small detail, but it was one of my pet peeves about the majority of desktops that were using Xorg, is that whenever I would be scrolling on the screen, maybe in a PDF, the cursor would keep following my finger. The cursor would keep following my finger and not even be right below my and not even be right beneath my finger, but just lag behind a little. So, but using Unclutter Xfixes made it very seamless. I would argue that it even has a better response. I would say it even has a better response time at hiding the cursor than GNOME is on Xorg. And before moving to XFCE, I moved from GNOME Wayland to GNOME Xorg because when I had to share my screen on Zoom, it only works on GNOME and on specific whitelisted distros. So even though I really like Wayland, it's not viable for my university stuff. I found another interesting package called libinput gestures, which can register 3 and 4 finger swipes on the touchpad and even pinching movements and translate those into key combinations. So what I did is I set 3 finger swipes to left and right to move between my workspaces, and it translates those to the key combinations Control Alt left and right that I have on XFCE. So I think I managed to implement most of my favorite GNOME specific features on XFCE, and I'm really happy with this desktop. And I'm even happier and more and I'm even happier with Debian. Seems like the perfect distro was with me all along. I just didn't notice it. I also started getting back into learning Japanese this past week through Japanese song lyrics, and also trying to improve my Japanese reading that way. But because Japanese has hundreds and thousands of characters, some of them are very complicated, you can insert phonetic guides over the harder characters in a text to have the pronunciation. And I don't mean that just making another line in the text in your text editor and inserting the characters there. A lot of text editors have support for this is a specific feature called a phonetic guide, where you can insert phonetic characters above complicated characters, and even when you copy the text, it moves with them. So it's set in a different line. It's like an accent above a character. And for this back on Windows, I would just use the built-in phonetic guide feature in Microsoft Word. But now I decided to try and do the same thing in LibreOffice Writer. And it was a pleasant surprise to find out that I didn't even need to install anything on top of LibreOffice, because on Microsoft Word, I had to download the Japanese language support for the system, and then I could enable that in Word. But in LibreOffice, I think I just had to enable, but on Linux, I think it was just a one click of enabling Japanese, and then I could do these phonetic guides in Writer. So now the only thing I have to figure out for this is printing on Linux. Because throughout this year of using Linux, I never really gotten around to try and figure out printing on Linux. I never really got around to try and to try and figure out printing, because on rare occasions when I would have to print, I would just use my phone because having a printer on the network, it's way more convenient to just print a PDF from my phone than it is either from Windows or Linux. I think I tried setting up printing on Manjaro with cups, but didn't really go anywhere with that, so I should try that again. And that's pretty much what I wanted to say. So, Clayton, what have you been up to this past 2 weeks?
Well, I didn't actually volunteer 2 weeks ago, so I only wrote a week. And then I didn't write much on that because I was volunteering and driving people and products around. Yeah, I started out. Should I start about introducing myself first, Joe?
Yeah.
Yes,
Sorry.
please.
Okay. Well, I've been using.
Shouldn't we do like a proper introduction segment? So shouldn't you, Joe? You should start out by saying that we have a new host and stuff. It would flow better in the editing, I think.
I think you're wrong.
Oh.
I'm only here until Tony can make it back, if possible.
Well, yeah, we don't know if Tony is going to make it back. He's doing his semi-retirement thing, so it will depend on a lot of factors on whether or not he comes back. But it does sound like Moss will be rejoining us in the semi-near future.
That's good.
But yeah, tell us a little something about yourself, Clayton.
Well, I've been using computers since Commodore. My first computer that I used was a Texas Instrument 99A. It was a girlfriend of mine, and she seen that I was interested, and she had one of her other girlfriends donate a Commodore 64 that her husband shattered, broke up, came in a box. So that's when I got into my first computer repairs.
That's how I like getting all of my computers completely broken.
Well, it was free too, Joe.
My favorite price.
That's the price I can afford. I got an operating system like that now too. But yeah, we had to fix the Commodore up. They smashed the keyboard. We replaced that. Found it at Radio Shack. Couple capacitors in there. Disk drive wasn't too bad. Just had to put a bunch of rubber bands around the case that broke up. I think I know why the guy might have got upset, because the printer was a graphic printer, and it had a little bit of flash in between the wheels for the paper feed, and it would print and jam and just print over itself a couple times, and then print fine, and then I think I know why he blew up at it, and when I found that, I was a little bit happier because I just scraped it off the wheel and it worked fine. So yeah, I like cheap and free stuff. Then I went to Amiga from Commodore, and I did that for a while, and then I went to I was in a users group. It was COMP. It was Computer Owners of Marysville and Port Huron. And then they changed it after the Commodore, because it used to be Commodore Owners of Marysville and Port Huron. Then it went to Computer Operators of Marysville and Port Huron, when we started letting the DOS and the Windows and the Apples in. And then we went to Amiga as well. But I got into Linux in about 2000. I was doing building services at a retail place, doing the floors at night, and there was a Linux magazine book with the CDs in it and all that, and I picked it up. It was Mandrake. I think it was 7.6. And, don't quote me on that. It was my age, okay? Then I got a Linux for Dummies. and it had Red Hat 8.0 in it, and I had to try that. I kept having problems with the hardware I had, because back then we didn't have everything working perfectly with Linux. So I actually bought a system from Lindows. Anybody remember Lindows?
Yeah, they have a different name now, but they're still around.
They're Linspire now.
Yeah, Linspire. Thank you.
Yeah. But I got them because I could get the computer, the hard drive, and everything that worked together rather than finding everything that didn't work together. Problem is with their operating system, they wanted you to buy free software. So that didn't last long. But I had a system that would run Linux, and there was plenty on the internet. So I switched back over. So I read the first part backwards because, I don't know, started out that way, I guess. Actually, this week I didn't do a whole lot. I had to switch out my hard drive in the main system here. So I was using a 250 gig solid state drive as a boot drive in the desktop. That was about to max out. I only had 5 gig left. It was slowing down, guys. It was really bad. And I do have other drives in the system, but you can just throw so many files this way and that way. And I decided to get a bigger SD. I got me a 512 gig SSD and put from my laptop. I bought it for the laptop because I was using that, planned on going to the church more often and recording services and stuff. And with COVID, I didn't get to do that. I actually stopped going to church. I've been staying home, gaining weight. So I took that hard drive out of the... Go ahead, Joe.
That seems like the popular thing to do, stay at home and gain weight.
Yeah, I think it's hereditary, though, but yeah. But bottom line is I wanted to swap the SSDs around because I use the desktop more often. So I pulled it out of the laptop, put it in the desktop, and I tried out Cinnamon. And I was going to use it for my daily driver, but I don't know Cinnamon that well, so I went back to Mate. And I'm still going to have problems fighting with my printer, though. I have a Brother color printer. It's a HL-4040CN. As a color printer networked. I would like to get one that's double-sided because trying to tell Linux to print one side and then come back and print the other side, it doesn't do it properly in every program. Anyway, that, and I have problems with that particular driver for that system because it uses CUPS 3.0, which has been updated. That's why I stuck around with 19.3 for so long. Care for that, got out of the... Oh, and then Chrome. I don't know why they're having fights between who's suppository, yeah, I'll say it. They come out of, Linux Mint or Ubuntu. When I just want Chrome to work, I don't need to fight with people fighting whose snack pack's going to hold it, Flat pack. So I went right straight to the website and downloaded that. I need my passwords to work, and I need my bookmarkers. When I installed the OS, because I was updating, I just did a new install on the new hard drive because it was new, and then took my data, my personal files, passed them over to the new hard drive, and then put the old hard drive back for backup. So that part was easy, but put my old hard drive, or it was another SSD, back into the laptop. It's a slightly smaller one. But that was about it for my week, other than driving. Like I said, I had a friend that gathered food from the pantry, and another friend that got bumped off his food stamps just before Thanksgiving, so I ran food for who I could, you know. That's it.
Okay, that's it for our Linux innards. Or no, for our bi-weekly wanderings, and now we're moving on to our Linux innards. Okay, and today we are discussing the best ways and sources to learn the command line and our favorite command line tools. Starting with myself, the way that I really forced myself to learn the command line was through immersion. I forced myself to learn the command line by doing everything there. When I finally decided that I was going to do computers professionally, I just switched full-time Linux and did everything I could from the command line, or from the terminal, and including launching applications, all my installs and updates, compression and decompression, git pulls, wgets. So if I wanted to download something from the internet, yes, I would find the web page, but then I would use wget to pull it locally, or to, download it locally. And then X11 configs, instead of using any of the built-in display managers or anything like that, I would use X11 configs to set things up the way that I wanted. I was doing my own FSTab setups instead of using the drivers tool. Now, granted, when I first started doing this, the drivers tool didn't exactly work all that well for setting up what happened when a drive connected at boot. So FSTab was pretty important. And then also cron tab configurations were another way that I learned. I really do like cron tab for automation. So once you really got those things going down, or understood, you can start writing scripts to make your life easier and still use the command line. You could also write launchers as well. Scripts really aren't anything more than a series of bash commands saved in a file. Now, granted, when I started, a lot more command line was required. But if you get stuck, Google is your friend, and so is ArchWiki. If you really want to learn, ArchWiki is a great, great tool. And don't be afraid to brick your system when you're starting out. Save the important stuff externally and make copies of difficult to set up configurations so you're not trying to redo the impossible over and over again. Now, my favorite command line tools, or things that, actually get you to use the command line. Docker. It's great for standalone applications, and you'd be surprised how many times I would have to connect to the terminal inside of a Docker image to find a file location, or to adjust a configuration, or to move something to where I could pull it out so that I could study it at my leisure. So, yeah, and you do start Docker images from the command line as well, and you also have to know which arguments to pass and things like that. So it is good for learning the command line. YouTube DL. Now, it is good for making extremely complex commands that you can make yourself, and it will teach you a lot. And while you should go find other people's commands and copy and paste them and change them as needed, you will need to go through them to find what needs to be changed to fit your particular circumstances. Another one for basically learning about configuration files and automation is Transmission CLI. A lot of people use Transmission GUI. I recommend Transmission CLI if you really, really want to get down and learn the automation portion of it and really get into the configuration file and do everything yourself. Now, along with YouTube DL, because it uses a lot of the tools from it, I would say FFmpeg, and for the conversion of files. And much like YouTube DL, the commands can get extremely complex and are a very good way to learn what's going on the command line. And yeah, it is a super powerful tool, and you will be surprised at all the other tools that use FFmpeg in the background, including things like YouTube DL, Handbrake, anything that you can think of that basically touches video or audio. Also, I want to suggest something a fellow podcaster showed me a couple of years ago called Bandit, which is a game to teach you Linux command line. And I have posted the link here. It's overthewire.org/wargames/bandit. I have played it. I haven't gone all the way through. There's so much to do there. But it is certainly fun, and you probably will need quite a bit of Google Foo to figure out some of the things that you've not seen before, especially if you're brand new. There are sites out there that will walk you through or provide you hints, or if you really get stuck, give you the answer. But definitely a good way to learn and try it out. I highly recommend the game called Bandit from overthewire.org. Try it out. Great way to learn Linux. The only way to get to the next level is to solve the problem. A listener also sent an email, but they asked us not to specifically read their email, so I'm just providing the links that they provided of useful playlist on YouTube called Linux Command Line. What is Linux Command Line? And I have looked. I haven't gone through everything, but it does seem like it would be helpful. And then there's also another link to a website from the Frugal Computer Guy at the frugalcomputerguy.com. And it's Linux Command Line Overview. That link will also be in the show notes. Okay, and unless you guys have anything you want to add on my section, let's move on to Josh.
All right, well, as much as I hate to admit it, I've probably forgotten more about the command line than I currently know. I definitely played with it a lot more when I was first getting started in Linux. But with GUI tools increasing in both in number and functionality, I find that I use it less now than ever before. That said, I still do use it for some basic functions, particularly on my Debian install, not quite as much on Mint. I think that every Linux user should at the very least know how to utilize their package manager in the terminal. So for those of us on Debian-based distros, that would be apt or apt. So examples would be updating and upgrading system packages, installing and removing software, and using auto remove to keep the system clean, but use that one with care because it can occasionally remove files vital to the system. So always check what it's going to uninstall before executing it. I have personal experience with that one.
I definitely want to jump in right there and mention that he's absolutely right on that. Do not use your auto remove the first time you install a new kernel, because then that will prevent you from using the old kernel if the new kernel is broken.
Yes. So yeah, absolutely use with caution on that one. Also, learn how to use CD to navigate your file system from within the terminal, and use in conjunction with the ls command to list files from each directory. That can be very helpful and quicker than GUI in some cases. And another one I deem important is knowing how to use a terminal-based text editor. In my case, that would be Nano, in order to make quick edits to files. And again, it's generally faster than using the GUI, especially when root privileges are needed. Graphical terminal applications such as htop can also be very useful while bridging the gap between standard commands and full-on GUI tools. Touch is a great command to create new files or update timestamps on existing ones. And man pages are your friends in the CLI. Learn how to use it. It will give you information about the command itself and how to extend its functionality utilizing arguments. Remember that the terminal is a powerful tool, and it must be used with extreme care. For as much good as it can do, it can also wreak havoc if used without discretion. As tempting as it can be when attempting to solve an issue, never run random commands that you run across online. They may be out of date, may be intended for a different distro, or, on occasion, intentionally malicious. So always make sure you know what the command is going to do before you execute it, and that it's coming from a trusted source. And I wanted to say that a resource that helped me understand the terminal when I was new to Linux is an 8-part bash series by Joe Collins on YouTube. And it really assumes that you are absolutely brand new to the terminal, because I remember when I first installed Ubuntu as my first distro, I remembered pulling up the terminal for the first time and thinking, this is what everyone was on about. Here's this big, powerful box that can do it all. But I had no idea what to do. I just had a flashing cursor, and I was like, okay. So this series helped me a whole bunch, and I put a link to that in our Check This Out section so that if you'd like to look at that, you can. So if nobody has anything to add to that, I will pass it on to Norbert.
What's interesting is I never actively decided to go in and properly learn the terminal, but the initial reason why I switched to Linux was because that it was required for my university studies, and in multiple cases, different lectures and in multiple cases in different lectures and practical and practical classes, they actually explained the term. They actually went and explained that the command line to us, and we even even gave us little cheat sheets and resources on how to use the basic commands.
Now, I do find it interesting that the two of you have mentioned that you didn't really need to learn the command line, or that you were able to do everything on the computer without learning the command line first.
Well, I'm not saying that because even years ago when I first used Linux for a couple of months, Linux Lite, I did use apt to install things. So at least I was familiar with how apt worked before I had to switch because of university. But those university lectures were really helpful in learning how to navigate the file system, how to edit files, how to list files, how to use cat and less and more. But what's interesting, we were actually exposed to Vim before we were exposed to Nano. That is very interesting. So one of the first things I ever learned in this.
Well, I will say that it's better Vim than Emacs.
Yeah. So one of the first things I learned in these lectures was how to exit Vim. So even before I was a profile Linux user, I knew that it was :Q. And so one of the most important tools that we had to use for a university was SSH, because we would have to SSH into various servers that are more powerful, and that those that had like 64 to 128 threads and 200 gigs of RAM for running more intensive, for running more resource intensive things there. But and this was around the time when I already moved to Manjaro, and I did start using the command line for updating the system. I never really used a GUI software store on Linux. Or wait, no, I did use PEMAC. I did use Manjaro's PEMAC a couple of times, but then I realized that I went there less and less, and started using Pacman more and more. And I want to give a shout out to Paru, which is an AUR helper. It's a fork of Yay, but but it's written in Rust. And we did mention how Rust is more and more popular. And so after I started using the AUR, I moved from Pacman to using only Paru, which is only a wrapper for Pacman, but it can search the AUR, and when I type a search command, it lists matches from the arch repos as well as it lists matches from the arch repos as well as it lists matches from the arch repos as well as from the AUR. And when I added the chaotic AUR, it was even listing from there because that was already added to Pacman. So while having the same output and the same layout as Pacman would, and while I think XBPS Void Linux's package manager is way faster, I don't really like the layout and I don't really like how information is laid out in XBPS. So I think because of that Pacman and the various Pacman. So I think because of that, Pacman and Paru might be my favorite package manager if we are shouting at package managers. And then I started using Nano and Git and stuff like that people commonly use. So while I still use a lot of GUI applications, for example, I use a GTK version of Transmission because I like how GTK apps look generally. I still frequently go to the command line for stuff that is more efficiently done there. For example, I'm also using YouTube DL, which can also fetch videos from Twitch, and I'm using it to get the VODs from streams that I'm doing with my friend on his Twitch channel for editing later. And it's a lot more convenient than, for example, what I've been using on Windows, which was Twitch Leecher, GUI app.
YouTube DL is great. It will pull video from anywhere.
And even if you just use MPV from the command line and paste a YouTube URL after it, it will open the YouTube video in MPV, which is also very convenient. So I think if you're talking about YouTube DL, MPV is also worth mentioning. So yeah, I've been using fairly common utilities like Nano and Git, htop, sudo, cfdisk. Sudo and cfdisk I want to highlight especially because most people use sudo just to elevate privileges, but I recently learned about how it has way more functionality. And a couple of shows ago, I put sudo edit into check this out, which is an alias for sudo-e. So sudo tech e, which is a way of editing system files without directly editing them, and it creates a temporary version, and it creates a temporary copy of that file, and you edit that, and after you save it, it will replace the original one with that. So you still need to input your password, but it's not giving Nano itself privileges to edit the file directly, or whichever text editor you use. And cfdisk, because a lot of tutorials and guides about installing various Linux distributions like Arch and Gentoo mostly use fdisk. But I found that cfdisk has all of the functionality that I need. It can even, if the disk doesn't have a partition table, cfdisk can even offer to create a partition table and choose between various ones. So an interesting CLI tool that I would like to mention is Auto CPU Freak, which when I was looking for ways to optimize and improve battery life on my tablet and my laptop, and I tried TLP, which didn't really make much of a difference on my Surface tablet. And when I found Auto CPU Freak and tried it, it could actually limit CPU speeds to its minimum that is defined in the BIOS. So from 2000 megahertz, so from 16 to 2000 megahertz, it brought it down to 800 megahertz, which actually gave me, I think, an extra hour while watching movies, almost an extra hour on my tablet. So I found out about this. I found out about this tool in a video by Chris Titus, and I think it's the best battery in life, and I think this is the best power management tool that I've ever used on it. And I think it's the best and I think it's the best power management tool that I ever used on Linux. It did make my system kind of slow, and because I'm using GNOME on that tablet, GNOME became a bit GNOME started lagging a bit. So maybe I should look into switching to XFCE on my tablet as well. As for learning about the command line, like I said, I never actively decided to learn that, and I was lucky to get the basics that I needed from university lectures, but and also from doing an Arch installation. So when I decided to do an Arch installation for the first time, I think I didn't only pick up. I think I didn't only pick up. I think I didn't only pick up knowledge about how Linux system works, but also various commands that I didn't use before. I think one of the most powerful commands that I use might be just ln for creating symlinks, because I have almost every directory in my home folder linked to an external drive, because I want to keep my configs on the same, because I wanted to keep my configs on the root partition in my home directory when multi-booting different distros, while still being able to use the directories in my home directory for storing files and not having to store them on the root partition. So I think that about covers it, what I wanted to share. What about you, Clayton?
Yeah, I very seldom use Clyde line, the command line. The only time I've ever had problems with like printers, where my printer would be older than the new cups, I would have to go out and find the older cup to work. I got to do that now that I updated again on the desktop here, and it's kind of picky for my printer, because I bought the printer. I got two printers, laser color printers, for $5 a piece. The one's got a motherboard problem with it, and if you ever try to open a walnut, that's about how this thing feels. It's not a computer case; it's totally different. But the other printer, it said all it needed was there's a waste tray in the bottom of it, and a roller tray to feed them. Well, the roller tray doesn't feed them, because the last roller one that was in there had little rubber bands on each side of the belt, and they would break up, and I believe they're in the wheels of the printer for feeding the paper. But bottom line is I got to get it back to where I can set it up to manual feed for now. Like I said, I plan on probably updating this to a dual sided one, because it prints real well. And all I had to do is buy a lot of expensive components. You know how that stuff is. I wanted to get away from my bubble jet, because that was just a waste of time. I got me a laser printer, a black and white, just mono. A couple years back, curbside, somebody threw it out. Somebody cut the cord on it, and the guy would have opened the case. He could have had the whole cord, because it was just a 90-degree angle on it. I ordered one, put the cord in, it printed. It just needed a toner. Put a toner in it. I've got a printer. I've been running on the same toner cartridge for 2.5 years. so I think it was worth buying the cord and the printer toner.
Yeah. Well, most of the discussion that I put in was for like regular, normal desktop use. There are a couple other tools that I want to mention that should be talked about if you're planning on doing a lot from the command line. And those tools are grep, awk, and sed. Now, I do actually use grep quite a lot. I don't use awk and sed as much as I used to because I'm not dealing with, log files as much as I used to at work. So, but like grep is an extremely useful tool. You can see that I used that earlier to fix some of the loopback issues that I was having, and it is up on the live stream right now, so it might make things difficult for some of the audio only people, but essentially it was just an ls mod and then pipe that in, pipe that into grep and then use what I'm searching for. Now, the most common thing that I use grep for is with history, so I don't have to be constantly re-looking things up. History will give you everything you've ever typed into the terminal in the past. Actually, I don't know how far back it goes, but now I can history, pipe, grep, and then loop back, and you can see all the commands that I used for setting up the loop back, which is what my droid cam uses, and also what OBS uses to make a fake webcam so that you can use your screen share as a webcam. And then just looking at all the history, you can see git pulls, clean and makes, and the whole process of installing and setting up loopback just using history and grep. So history, pipe, and grep. So those are a couple of other things that are extremely useful just for seeing what you've done before. With history, grep will just find a specific series of characters. So yeah, it's also, if you want to look at log files, you can use grep to find a specific something in log files, like your graphics card or something like that. Like LSCPU will give you a whole lot of information, but like I can use LSCPU and then pipe and then grep and then Ryzen, and that will tell that I'm using a AMD Ryzen 5 3600 6-core processor.
And just to clarify, in case anyone might have misunderstood, that pipe is not a command written out as pipe, but a pipe symbol.
Yes. And then LSPCI will tell you everything that's hooked up to PCI slots. So that's also something where grep comes in handy to find something specific, or what LS USB, and that's all your USB devices, everything that's hooked up over USB. So sometimes you need a device ID in order to be able to load a module, but you have to find said device ID. So sometimes the only way to do that is to disconnect a USB device, do an LS USB, and then reconnect said USB device and find what got added to the list. And then you can use the ID to go and find specific drivers and install them. But that's digging deep for command line stuff right there. Does anybody else have anything they want to add?
The only other time I used the command line was to find webcams that weren't working. I don't know what happened to Cheese, but I think their maintainer might be sleeping or not there.
Yeah, it is good for finding webcams, especially on like tablets where it does require, in some instances, specific modules to be added in order for those webcams to work, or for older webcams that aren't necessarily supported anymore, or touchpads, or even touch screens in some instances. And then you're looking for HID devices. So, yeah, command line is helpful for that. And if that's all, then we're ready to move on to vibrations from the ether. Okay, we did get a couple of feedbacks from listeners. Does anybody want to read this other than me? Okay, going once, going twice, and it's me. Okay. This is from William Hauser. Greetings. I have been a listener on mintCast for about a year and a half. On the 2 most recent episodes, you mentioned that you were in the process of searching for at least one new co-host. It is to this endeavor I offer myself as a possible candidate. I have been a steady Linux user since 2006 and to a lesser extent back to 2002. I have 2 machines dual booting Windows 11, one of which is running Arch, cha-ching, and the other Kubuntu 2010. I also maintain a few servers in my home lab, one running Ubuntu Server 2110, which runs a Nextcloud instance, as well as a Jellyfin Docker container. I have a Rockport running Armbian, which is running another Nextcloud instance, that all the devices in the family back up to. Both of my servers are storing everything on a ZFS mirror. I also have 4 Raspberry Pis doing various things, including a Pi-hole server. I am 100% self-taught with all of these things. My skills in Linux and open source software come from years of research and good old trial and error, mostly error. I do not work in the tech field. I've been a truck driver based out of Indiana for close to 28 years. Ever since I served in the Army during the early 90s, I'm a bit of a singularity in my line of work. Given the things I'm interested in, though, I have successfully converted 4 of my fellow drivers to Linux on their old hardware that they thought they couldn't use anymore. I would bring some of that unique perspective to the show as someone who is not usually surrounded by technical people. I take Linux and open source software on the road with me on my laptop, as well as my Android devices. I happily use a Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Plus, which I believe Joe mentioned is the model he uses. Linux and open source software is my passion, and I really enjoy talking about it and sharing my experiences and what I've learned. I hope you'll consider me as part of your team. I look forward to hearing from you. Sincerely, Bill. And I did respond, you should join the Discord. That is where we have our meetings and get new hosts. You sound like you would be a good fit, but we also have 2 other people that are supposed to be joining. But you never know how things will break out. If you see us in a room talking, feel free to join us. And then William responded, right on. I just did that. I had to create an account and get the appropriate apps. I've never used Discord before. It seems pretty good. Anyway, thanks for getting back to me. I look forward to chewing the fat with you guys. Sincerely, Bill. And now this was all in like the last 2 days, so we didn't really have like a lot of setup time to get Bill on the show today. We'll be happy to have you on the next show, Bill, and we'll get everything set up. Ping one of us, me, Josh, Norbert, Nishant if he's on, and we'll get you set up as mintCast crew, and we will give you access to the next set of show notes, and you can start putting things in from there. And then we also got an email from Highlander. And he said, for a while now, I've known that it was possible to customize the Grub bootloader. Grub Customizer has been used for years now. Recently, I find that it is possible to also put your choice of picture in the background of the bootloader screen. While logged into your administrator user account, use the Thunar file manager to put your picture into /boot/grub. You will need to right-click on the name of the user account inside Thunar file manager and then click open as root. Find this file folder /boot/grub. When you are in that file folder, you can right click and then click paste. If your picture has a PNG file extension, it should work reasonably well for you. You will probably get the best results by using Grub Customizer, Thunar File Manager, and the terminal command sudo update grub without quotes inside Linux Mint. Have fun. He did include a picture in the email. However, I am not going to put that on the YouTube stream because it's just that little bit racy. I liked the picture, but I'm not going to share it with everybody. And that does seem cool, and I might try that setup.
Right on. And going back to Bill's email real quick, I've also been a commercial driver for a little over 20 years, and I know what he's talking about, being a bit of an anomaly in the field that you work in when you dabble into the more technical areas. But yeah, it'd be awesome to have him on, have a fellow truck driver on here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's about the same way I used to put computers together too. And I still do. I pick them up at the thrift store and put Linux on them. I try to upgrade all the hardware I possibly can. Sometimes you can't, just can't change the hardware, all right?
Yeah, I try to pick up deals on Facebook Marketplace for stuff that's broken, that's decent, and try and get it working again, and then put Linux on it, and then, you know, say, yes, I got it working when everybody else gave up on it.
Yeah, isn't that one of the great parts about Linux is you can take some of these really old pieces of hardware. I remember I had a bunch of Dell Dimensions that were single-core Pentium chips, and yeah, you can kind of resurrect them with a nice lightweight Linux distro and make them useful again.
Yeah, that's what I do. I keep all my old distros too because they seem to be getting rid of 32-bit.
Yeah, there isn't a whole lot of distros left that still do 32-bit. I think MX is one of the last holdouts.
Debian.
Yeah.
I think Debian. Doesn't Debian itself
I'm not sure.
support 32-bit?
Antics?
I haven't been keeping
Antics, yeah, Antics.
Antics were pretty good for me on a couple of them. I was handed two old laptops. I mean old enough that I had to go look for them 32 bits that fly under the radar. You know? They're hard to find.
Also Zorin Lite, I think.
I got a couple of Toshiba tablets that are 32-bit only. Those were fun to get working with MX.
Right.
That's the only reason I know that MX still does a 32-bit.
Oh, Zorin OS Lite 16 Lite doesn't seem to offer a 32-bit, but I know that Zorin 15 did.
Yeah, I think that went away when Ubuntu changed because they're
But
using
it
Ubuntu
still
base.
lists Zorin 15.3 as a 32-bit option. And I
Okay.
think it will be supported until 2023.
All right.
That's cool. All right, now we get to move on to check this out. And we have two items in the check this out section, and I believe that they belong to Josh.
The first one does, and this is just rehashing what I brought up in our intersection, but I got a link there to Joe Collins' Bash Basics series. I just found it so helpful. It's an 8-part series. It's lengthy, but again, Joe approaches it from a very, very brand new user perspective. So if you're someone that's sitting there on a Linux distribution, or you're thinking about coming over and you're a little worried about the terminal, I highly recommend this series. And yeah, it starts you off from ground zero and gets you up and running.
Yeah, his videos are pretty good.
They're excellent. Joe's a wonderful teacher, so yeah, highly recommended. And Norbert, I'm assuming this next one's yours?
Indeed it is. It's a GNOME extension that I encountered a couple of months ago. It's called Bedtime Mode. It's called Bedtime Mode. What it does is, at the time that you set it to do, it turns your entire screen into a black and white. It turns your entire screen into black and white, which is meant to encourage you to stop working and go to bed in time. But I found a different use case for it that is quite the opposite. Because, there are various blue light filters, and I think GNOME also has a built-in one to reduce eye strain when you're working at night in the dark. But even when you have even with a blue light filter turned on, it doesn't get rid of all the blue light. It just reduces it, which makes some things on the display look kind of weird or bad. But I realized that if I enable both the blue light filter and GNOME Bedtime Mode, then it first applies the Bedtime Mode and turns everything into black and white. Then it applies the blue light filter on top of that. So you get a really nice sepia effect, which essentially doesn't have any blue light, or at least it's not supposed to have any blue light, because which I think doesn't have any blue light, or maybe it does, but it has significantly less blue light than with only using the blue light filter, because it applies the filter on top of the black and white picture. So it looks, even if you don't consider what blue light does to your eyes. So even if you don't consider the eye strain part, so even if you don't consider what blue light, even if you don't consider that blue light that not having blue light is better for your eyes, it also looks way better than, for example, just applying a blue light filter. Because at the time when I discovered it, my wallpaper had a blue element in it. It was a blue mushroom in the forest. And applying a blue light filter, no, so it was red. Sorry, did I say blue? So because my wallpaper at the time of discovering this was a red mushroom in the green forest floor, and that picture especially looked really bad with the blue light filter on. But when I turned both of these things on, it just looked really pleasant to look at. So GNOME Bedtime was intended to keep you from working late, but it's sort of enabled. But I think it can also be used to improve your work experience at night. And that's what I wanted to say.
Well, that's interesting. Okay. On to announcements. Our next episode will be at 2 p.m. U.S. Central Time on Sunday, the 26th of December. We do have a link to convert that to your time zone in the show notes. And our next live stream will be next Saturday, 2 p.m. U.S. Central Time on the 18th of December. Hopefully. And you also have a link to convert that to your time zone. Now, I will say that with the 18th and the 26th both, this is the holiday season, so things can change. Availability may change. Currently, I think I'm the only one set up to stream on the 18th, and I'm hoping I'm not driving on the 18th to Florida. I might wait till the 19th to drive to Florida, or the 20th, but hopefully it won't be a problem. And now on to wrap up. For myself, you can catch me in a couple other podcasts. I'm at tllts.org. That's the Linux Link Tech Show. Also, I'm on the Linux Lugcast. You can find that at linuxlugcast.com. We should be recording this upcoming Friday again. If you want to join us there, the information should be on the website. You can catch me on MeWe, or you can send me an email directly, jb@mintcast.org, and I also have a Ko-fi link if you want to check the show notes for that. Norbert, where can we find you?
You can send me an email at norbert@mintcast.org. And I'm also on the and lately I've been also more active on our Telegram group, as well as and lately I've been more active on our Telegram group. So you can also find me there.
Yep, it's a very active Telegram group. I highly recommend it for everybody. Sadly, at 2 a.m. when it's really jumping in there, I have to silence it so I can do that crazy thing where I sleep.
Yeah, I muted too. That Londoner just gets up too early.
I don't think he sleeps either.
Possibility.
All right, and the other Josh, where can we find you?
You can send me an email at jt@mintcast.org. Find me at Josh Thacker on Discord and at metal_foss on Twitter.
Okay, and Nishant was not able to join us this week. He should hopefully be back on either the next show or in the new year. But if you want, you can send Nishant an email, nishant@mintcast.org. You can catch him on Instagram at Rycon Ghost or Rycon Ghost at GitHub, Ghost.Rycon on Discord, and Maverick00783 on Steam. And Clayton, where can we find you?
I have nothing to share there, Joe. I don't want any extra emails. I got everybody having a Black Friday sale going on. You know what I mean?
Yep. Okay. Before we leave, we want to make sure to acknowledge some of the people who make mintCast possible. Josh Lowe for all his work on the website, Hobstar for our logo, InitRD for the animated Discord logo, and Londoner for our time sync. Pipemark Hosting for hosting mintcast.org and our backup Mumble server. Archive.org for hosting our audio files. And the Linux Mint development team for the fine distro we love to talk about. Thanks, Clem.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Clem.
Clem. I can
I got
see the
that one
title
down
of this
fine.
video.
Just
can see the
pretend the
title of this
outro
episode
music
being-
is playing.
I can already see the title of this episode be something to do
I
with
don't hear no
tongue
music,
twisters.
Joe.
Well, even if we had it set up, you wouldn't be hearing the music. It'd just be going straight to YouTube. Now, you were saying, Norbert?
I can already see the title of this episode be something to do with being something having to do with tongue twisters.
It wasn't
Yep.
it wasn't me just hallucinating. There was a whole lot of fun language
Yeah,
in
but
the news.
in my defense, Josh was the worst offender in that regard this week.
Okay.
Oh, under the bus. I saw the wheels.
Right?
Yeah. Okay, so everybody, you ready to stop the Audacity recording?
Tell me when.
Whenever you want. The stopping of the recording isn't as important as the starting.
Nope. That's it.
But
Audacity
you will
is-
need someone to walk you through the export process.
Ah, yes.
You press Control Shift and E, which is exports.
What's that?
Or you can
Control.
click on File, too, if you
Oh,
want to
okay.
use...
So yeah, okay. So File and Export.
Export audio.
Export
All
audio.
those are blanked out.
Oh.
Did you stop your recording?
No, it didn't stop. Let me hit it
Did you
again.
stop your recording?
Yeah, you
Will
should
it not
have.
stop?
Yeah.
Why will it not stop? Okay, the red button is not to stop. Sorry.
Okay.
I just wanted to let you guys know that.
Okay. You were worried for a minute.
All right, now we go to export.
Okay. So
Which one did you
Yeah.
want?
File, export audio, because it's not listed as the one we want.
And you're gonna
And here, at the bottom right, you should have FLAC files there. So choose FLAC.
and your first time you will have to manually change the extension to FLAC in the tool that you're using right now.
Too flat.
Oh no, it changed for me because I just
It
installed it.
changes
I
for
wrote
you.
it down as December 12th show. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Saving it as a WAV file.
No. You need to save it as a FLAC.
Black?
Yeah, you
Oh,
clicked
I don't
FLAC
see that.
down below, but
I don't see that listed down there. All I see down there is WAV files. Oh, wait a minute. Here it is. Gotcha.
and then you'll have to manually change the extension.
To what?
FLAC.
.FLAC.
Yep.
Spell it for me.
FLAC.
Gotcha. And then save. It says down at the bottom, it says level 5, bit 16.
5 is fine.
That's fine.
Yep.
I'm going to put this, open a folder called mintCast.
Do we have a 376 folder already?
No, we do not.
Okay. Are you making one or am I making one?
You can go ahead. I'm not quite there yet.
Okay.
Me neither.
Okay, now mine says, edit, something another tab. Metadata? Okay, just going to hard, just,
Yeah, don't worry about changing any of the metadata.
okay. Anything else you want me to do? Just hit OK at the bottom?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it should start exporting.
And then we'll have to get you access to this folder that I just created.
Yep. Upload file. There goes. Let it rip.
It's funny how the estimated time lapse moves the same pace as the other one.
Yeah.
Alright, mine's done apparently.
Okay. What's your email?
Mine?
Yeah.
Okay, it's long, Joe. You might want to write it down
Well,
first.
then message me on Discord.
Yeah, how about Telegram?
Message me on Telegram. That's fine too.
Which one are you on Telegram?
I'm Joe.
You can't be Joe, not Joe. Anyway, I guess everybody gets it there, huh?
Did you see me?
Hold on. Yeah, I see you now.
Joe online. Oh, I just realized that what your Telegram picture is, Joe. I didn't look at it in full size before.
Okay. My file's up.
It's a little long, Joe.
Oh, okay.
I don't get spammed too often with it though. Unless you're a retail outfit trying to sell something again. Huh?
You know, talk about perfect timing today. The Amazon man decided to bang on my screen right in the middle of my bi-weekly wanderings to deliver what I'm assuming is my new computer chair. I was like, oh, perfect.
That's really dumb trash can.
We had it 15 minutes earlier, right?
Yeah, exactly. A couple minutes in either direction would have been nice, but nope. Not how things work. So, Norbert, you might get a little extra background noise on my end right in the middle of that.
All right, Clayton. I
Well-
sent you the. Well,
I got it open, Joe. Now where you want me to drop it, though?
All I want you to do is take that file and drop it in that folder.
All right, let me see if I can go locate it. I made a folder for it. I'm gonna have to change this.
All right, I'm gonna end the live stream.
All right. Thank you to all who stuck around.
Londoner says, too early? It's already Monday here.
Yeah. Here. Hear that.
Oh wow, I didn't have my